It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. I found a really interesting short article that someone sent my way. It talks about when something goes wrong on a project, who gets blamed. And this was part of an email series that I saw. And the answers that I saw were quite incredible. I saw everything from the product owner is a single wringable neck to if you have an agile coach or someone who's a scrum master, they should be to blame, to the team doing the work, to the leadership not providing a clear vision and strategy. It felt like I was in the middle of a finger pointing festival and no one could settle on who really was to blame. So here is what this article says, and I thought it was interesting. And I'm going to kind of give you just a synopsis of the article, and then I'm going to go in and give you my opinion because I think my opinion will add some value here. So if you're the product owner, scrum master, or project manager, you're probably saying that the leader gets the blame. If you're a scrum team member, a development team member, you're probably saying we always get the blame. What if the reality of the situation is really a bit of both? And both failures could be solved by a purposeful application of skilled followership. This is interesting. So, a gentleman by the name of Rob Asghar wrote about this recently in a Forbes article entitled, Why Followership is More Important Than Leadership. And he makes a strong point that good, skilled followers are able to nurture good leadership. He adds that it's a lost art within the narcissistic times with which we live. The article, which is definitely worth reading, provides enough information to see that following Scrum principles and practices can, and should already do, produce skilled followers who nurture their fellow coworkers and even their bosses from time. So, I guess what I want to look at here is the first question that comes to my mind after reading this is who was surveyed that said that leaders are to blame? Because more times than not, leaders aren't necessarily to blame. So oftentimes leaders don't have a clear vision or clear strategy. Oftentimes leaders don't have everything that they need to provide the team with in order for them to have all the tools they need to be successful. Facts, right? But oftentimes it's not the leader's fault that the team doesn't reach out to try to get the things they need to be successful. It's just like it's not the product owner's fault either, or distinctly the team's fault. So whose fault is it? This is part of that shared accountability and shared ownership model that I've talked about for quite some time now. I feel like the whole point, and I wish I had this article pulled up about followership, because the whole point of followership is that if you are following a fearless leader and you are doing the things that you need to do to help the organization be successful, that you personally, the organization, and the leader will all be successful. If you are not in a place where you're doing followership, what you'll quickly discover is that it's going to be very difficult for you to support a leader that you don't believe in. If the leader is running off on one tangent and has a North Star that's not in line with what you're trying to do, then you're going to end up really mixing things up. This all goes back to the culture conversation that I was having with Mike Kottmeyer. It's one of these things where if you don't have an inherent culture of trust and an environment of stability where you're trying to implement this, and you don't have leadership that understands what their roles and accountabilities and responsibilities are, as well as the responsibilities of the affected team members, you're going to wind up with a mishmash of people all trying to do things for the betterment of the product, or for the betterment of the team, or the betterment of the organization. But there's going to be a lot of clashing where it doesn't always line up. So that begs the question, how can we nurture better leaders in the workplace? How can we get them focused on outcomes instead of outputs? And how can we get teams to align so that it's not all about just process, but it's about understanding culture, integrity, and delivering and building products and services that are world class to the marketplace that help other people be successful in what they do in their endeavors. And I think that's the missing key, that we've lost focus of the big picture, that Agile has gotten us so micro ingrained into what did you do yesterday, what are you doing today, and do you have any impediments, that oftentimes we forget about the bigger picture and the things that we need to do to be successful to help the end consumer have the tool that they need that's going to be most applicable and something that they can use and enjoy for time to come. So, how do we take a simple Scrum framework and blow it out into something that's powerful, powerful digital transformation that's going to help everyone involved be successful? And I think the key here is actually quite simple. It's all about a renewed focus on what's right. If you have team members that are focused on improving things where they lack, if you have product owners who are focused more diligently on creating and maintaining a solid backlog that's going to be easy for the teams to consume, so that there's no arguments or disagreements, or dependencies are eliminated, or not, I should say eliminated, dependencies are greatly reduced. It's just, you can create these environments, but it all has to start somewhere. And I love that quote. I think it was Mother Teresa who said, I may not be able to change everything, but I can throw a pebble in the water and make a wave. And I think that's kind of where we need to be. We need to be in that position where we're saying, okay, I might not be able to do it all, but I can certainly throw a pebble in the water. And we need to decide what pebble that is and how it's going to impact everything around us. What I can tell you is that I've worked in lots of organizations where they don't understand this concept of getting rid of the blame game. And if you haven't read Christopher Avery's whole outreach about getting rid of laying blame and responsibility process, you need to go and read that. It's pretty incredible. But what I can tell you is it's important for us to understand that we all hold part of the accountability. And it's important for us to understand that we all need to work together to create an environment of trust. And it's equally important for us to understand that if we apply principles that are going to help us all be successful, that's going to ultimately help organizations stop focusing on output and start focusing on outcome and impact. And we're all going to have happier workplaces, better products, and Agile's really going to make a difference. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We would love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.